Namaste. I am Dr. Pallavi Kasande. A warm welcome to this module on Aristotle. This is the second module and part 1. In this module, we are going to discuss psychological thought of Aristotle, who was an ancient Greek philosopher and scientist. He was one of the greatest intellectual figures of Western history. Aristotle's intellectual range was vast. His philosophical and scientific writings became a vehicle for thoughts of many disciplines because he has studied most of the natural and social sciences such as biology, botany, chemistry, physics, metaphysics, history, ethics, philosophy, psychology, political theory. But he was also known for his outstanding contribution in philosophy and psychology. Before moving towards his various concepts in psychology, let us understand his life in brief. Aristotle was born in Macedonia in northern Greece in 384 BC and he died in 322 BC. His father Nicomachus was the physician of King Macedonia. This era is called the era of Alexander the Great. His father had served the grandfather of Alexander. After his father's death, Aristotle shifted to Athens where he spent most of his adult life. His life in Athens is majorly divided into two periods. First, as a member of Plato's academy for 20 years, and the second part when Aristotle started his own school of thoughts, the Lyceum. Aristotle's most important psychological writings probably belong to his second residence and so to his most mature period. It is said that Aristotle was one of the greatest philosophers who ever lived and the first genuine scientist in history. He not only made pioneer contributions to all fields of philosophy and science as mentioned earlier, but he invented the field of formal logic. His concepts of perception and thinking are examples of this formal logic. Through this, Aristotle identified the various scientific disciplines and explored their relationships to each other. Aristotle's journey started with Plato's philosophical dialogues. Many of Plato's later dialogues date from these decades are reflected in Aristotle's contributions to philosophical debate at the Plato's academy. Aristotle also wrote initially in dialogue form and his early ideas show a strong Platonic influence. His dialogues reflect the Platonic view of the soul as imprisoned in the body and as capable of a happier life only when the body has been left behind. According to Aristotle, the dead are more blessed and happier than the living beings, and to die is to return to one's real home. This resembles to some extent to our Indian philosophy, isn't it? Aristotle claims that everyone must do philosophy, because even arguing against the practice of philosophy is itself a form of philosophizing. The best form of philosophy is the observation of the universe of nature. He used to strongly believe that God has made human beings and gave them a God-like intellect, and all that strength, beauty, power, honor, they are worthless. Later, though he was a devoted admirer and friend of his great teacher Plato, Aristotle started acknowledging a debate with Plato's philosophy. Although Aristotle has taken a large part of his philosophical agenda from Plato, he started modifying few of his thoughts and started distancing from Platonic philosophy in the range and presented his inquiries and in the mode of inquiry. Aristotle's work is a commitment to a distinctly ethological approach to psychological processes and phenomena. Plato died in 348 BCE and then Aristotle left Athens and migrated to Assos. It is today a city of Turkey. There he met new friends and also started his married life. There initially Aristotle carried out extensive scientific research, particularly in zoology and marine biology. The scope of Aristotle's scientific research is astonishing. He studied more than 500 species and described them in detail in his treatise. This is just a countless information about the anatomy, diet, habitat, modes of copulation and reproductive systems of mammals, reptiles, fish and insects. His research has given solutions to many of the superstitions about animals and living beings present at that period. His thoughts of inquiry are genuinely scientific. He says, whenever there is a conflict between theory and observation, one must trust observation. He insisted that theories are to be trusted only if their results conform with the observed phenomena. When Aristotle was 50, Alexander the Great was conquering Asia. That time he established his own school in a thought gymnasium known as the Lyceum. He built a substantial library and gathered around him a group of brilliant research students. The Lyceum was not a private club like Plato's Academy. Many of the lectures they were open to general public and given free of charge. Aristotle divided the sciences into three kinds: productive, practical and theoretical. The productive sciences are engineering and architecture, which have products like bridges and houses, and also disciplines such as strategy and rhetoric, where the product is something less concrete, but they are products of thoughts. The practical sciences are ethics and politics because they guide behavior, and the theoretical sciences are physics and mathematics and theology. He says that these theoretical sciences have no product and no practical goal, but information and understanding are sought for their own sake. Aristotle's writings fall into two groups: those that were published by him but are now almost entirely lost, and those that were not intended for publication but were collected and preserved by others. The first group consists mainly of popular works. The second group comprises treatises that Aristotle used in his teaching. So, based on his most of the treatises, today's scholars have collected his thoughts on psychology. Most of his psychology related thoughts are found in his writings De Anima, it means on the soul. His writings are famous now in form of books. He explored nature of life in general and of the soul in particular. It was an attempt to answer the questions about immortality and immateriality of the soul. His writings and thoughts do have a major influence on Western and Eastern philosophy, theology and culture. Aristotle viewed psychology as a part of natural philosophy. So, he has written much about philosophy of mind. We can find it in his ethical writings and in number of monographs on sense, perception, memory, sleep and dreams. He was follower of Plato, but wrote about mind and souls with different perspectives. Originally, he was a biologist. He considered the soul as integral part of body and not as separated entity which is ill housed in a body, as said by Plato. According to him, a soul's essence is defined by its relationship with an organic structure. Not only human beings, but animals and plants too have souls. However, they are not same. Human beings are special beings with a rational soul, which defines their intellect, powers, capacities and behavior. These thoughts have laid down a foundation for modern psychology, which studies human mind, which is reflected in human behavior. Hence, the study of history of psychology begins with Aristotle's work. Let us understand his various concepts in part 2. Thank you.